Welcome back, guys. We're just about ready to take the timing belt off, but first we're going to remove this crankshaft position sensor. So here's a view from the top, just one bolt holding it on. Should be a 10mm socket again, and leave it plugged in. You can leave it plugged in, take the bolt out, and just wiggle it out. There's a little rubber thing there that you just pull it straight back and out of the way. So again, to double check your timing, once you remove the crankshaft pulley, this other sprocket here also has a timing mark right here and here, and it's kind of hidden behind the timing belt. But that arrow needs to line up with that straight notch, and then you will be at number 1 top dead center. So that's a good way to double check it once that pulley's off. Alright, so now we're going to loosen the tensioner here. There's a 5mm Allen key, and it goes right in that spot there. And then just turn it, and you can loosen the belt, and then wiggle it off by hand while keeping tension on it. Little tricky to do it with one hand. I was holding the camera in one hand and trying to get it off with the other. So yeah, 2 hands will make it easier. It is a little tight, but it should slide off. If not, you could always loosen the tensioner bolt, but it's better to do it this way by hand if you can. Okay, and the belt is out. Inspect your belt for cracks if you're going to be reusing it. But when you're doing this much work, it's better to just put all new parts in. You're going to be driving the car for a while if you're doing all this work. So yeah, and you can also check your pulleys here. So you can just see if there's any side-to-side movement. Make sure the water pump turns freely, that it doesn't rock back and forth, that there's a lot of play in it. Check that and that tensioner as well. There's another check on the tensioner we'll do later if you're going to be reusing it, but that's just a quick one. Spin it by hand and check the bearings. Okay, now we're going to remove the camshaft pulley, and you got to be careful here. We do not want to turn the camshaft at all in this position, not to the left or to the right, because with the timing belt off, the cam will move, and it'll push the valves down, and those pistons, they're not going to move. They're just going to sit there. So you could be pushing a valve into the top of the piston and bend a valve. So I'm using a screwdriver here, just like this, to hold it from turning. Got to be careful. If it moves a little bit, you'll be okay. And then break it loose with a wrench, and you can loosen it off. This could probably be done off the car as well, but the procedure is to do it now. When picking up the cylinder head, who knows, you could, if you grab it from there, you could end up rotating it. So it might be better if there's not a big handle to grab and turn. So yeah, take it off in the vehicle, and it just comes off like that. Inspect for any damage on the camshaft there. And then there's another bolt right there that's holding on the plastic cover. And then there's also the camshaft position sensor that you can remove. There's one bolt for that, and then you can take it out. Okay, now we're ready to remove the cylinder head. So this is the order of removal. So you want to remove the bolts in this order. So 1, where I have the wrench, 2 is here, up to 3, back to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. So the first pass, we're only going to loosen them a third of a turn. And the reason we do this is it prevents the head from warping. If you just crack the bolts all the way right out of the gate randomly, it could cause the cylinder head to warp easier. So that's why you go a third of the turn in that order. So I'll give you that diagram as reference to in another worksheet that you can take with you. So yeah, just a third of just a third turn and go all the way through that order, and then come back and do another third turn. So you should probably do at least 2 passes, and then by the third, they're probably loose enough that you can take them the rest of the way out. Okay, so now you're ready to lift it out. It's a little heavy, but one guy could probably do it. Just activate your core, as my physiotherapist would say, and you can lift it out. Then just have somewhere you can set it on a garbage bag, and I'm just going to drain out the extra oil sitting in there. Just kind of get it a little cleaner. Just dump it upside down in an oil pan. So the head gasket seals between the cylinders so gases don't go from one to another, but it also seals out the coolant from getting into the cylinders and the exhaust gases from the cylinders from getting into that cooling passage. That cooling passage goes all the way around the cylinders, as you can see there. So a head gasket may look good, but it could still be failed. You don't usually see a huge break or tear in it. But the head's usually warped too, so even if the gasket's not in that bad of condition, you're still going to have the gases leaking out because of the warped head. It's not sitting perfectly flat. Then lastly, you can just soak up the coolant that's spilled down into the cylinders. If you just look down, you might see some sitting on top of the piston heads. When you took that head off, some just spills in there. So just soak that up. We're going to do an oil change later, so any coolant that's gotten in the oil pan will be removed. All right, that does it for this video. Awesome job. We've got the cylinder head off. We're almost ready to go to the machine shop, depending on what you want to do yourself, coming up in the next video. So I will see you in the next video.